Have you heard the adage that in life you earn, you learn, and then you return? Well, maybe you haven't, but what we're going to talk about today might lead you to thinking about your philanthropy, how you return differently from your earnings and your investment capital. Also, how do you measure the impact in both investing and philanthropy? Can you marry those two together? And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? I know I posed a lot of questions right here in the intro, but we're going to answer all those right now here on UBS Trending. Hi, everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm your host, Anthony Pastore. Thank you for joining us. I've got two guests here in the studio with me to help answer the questions I just posed right there in the intro. Amantia Muhedini from the Chief Investment Office and our good friend Nicole Sebastian from the Family Advisory and Philanthropy Services team here at UBS. Thank you both for joining us. I don't usually have intros that ask that many questions, but there are a lot of questions to be posed in the topic that we're talking about today. And just as I start this off, I want to remind our audience that about a year ago, we had Nicole and Amantia here to talk about the new Continuum. So this is a continuation of the Continuum conversation. I like the way I played on that word. But anyway, Nicole, I wanted you to maybe give our audience a bit of a reminder from where we were a year ago. Remind us what the new Continuum is so we can get into what we're talking about today.
Sure. Well, first of all, Anthony, thank you so much for having us back again on this topic. What we're seeing with more and more clients is the convergence of both investing and philanthropy when it comes to seeking impact. We're seeing an incremental and a consistent shift towards incorporating other priorities into investment strategies and portfolios, and this includes the effects on society and the environment, for example. And we've named this concept, and indeed the paper, the new Continuum, because we want to highlight the ways in which philanthropic and investing principles can be aligned to better leverage all of one's capital for impact. So let's take a look at the Continuum framework for a visual on the different ways in which individuals can put their capital to work in addressing what is really important to them. While we're framing these as parallel tracks, in order to illustrate the similarities across both investing and philanthropy, all of these options can and often do present concurrently. The Continuum is not an either-or proposition, but instead presents the menu of all of the options available. And each point on the Continuum does serve a specific purpose. In theory and in practice, one could end up with any combination of these categories in their basket, each emphasizing different goals and degrees of impact. And both are inspired by what the investor cares about, how they want to influence the world they live in, and the legacy that they want to live and leave both for their family as well as for the world at large.
Would you say then it's kind of like saying, just to kind of simplify it, put your money where your mouth is? If you care about something, invest in it, put money towards it.
I would, and I would add another body part. I would say where your heart is. It's not just mouth, it's not just heart, and I think that Amantia can probably take that analogy one step further.
Yeah, Amantia, yeah, this is great because, obviously we've talked a lot, you and I, on various shows. You're on with us frequently, and you've also co-hosted a lot of shows for us about sustainability, sustainable investing. This kind of takes it a step further. So talk about the investment side. What should investors know here when it comes to the new Continuum?
Sure. So the other body part is the head, right?
The brain, right?
The brain. The conversation that we always have about sustainable investing is how sustainability can help you find investable opportunities to help enhance or add to your financial returns. So what we're doing here is we're putting this conversation together. And really our audience here are those individuals, there's families, even those foundations and institutions that have a mission. Either they're already giving money away philanthropically to make a difference in the world, or they're planning to. They haven't started yet. It's part of their eventual objectives, right? So if they're thinking about philanthropic donations, then our question is, why not think about investments at the same time as you're thinking about philanthropy? And we have a few ideas of how you can get started with it. Just a few simple steps, really. So we would say start with appreciative inquiry. Start with questions. Simpler way of putting that.
Right.
First question is, what is your objective? You can go far deeper than saying, I care about the environment or society. Go deeper and identify what about the environment you're concerned about, you want to change, and how and why. So that's step one. Step two is then look at your options. So given how you define your objective, that will narrow down the field from an ocean's worth of options down to maybe a few buckets. And in those buckets, then, step 3, you talk to a financial advisor, think about your investment goals, and think, how do I allocate my capital in those different buckets? There are my different options across investments, different philanthropic strategies, and so forth.
So by identifying objectives, understanding what options you have in front of you, you can actually develop a plan with an advisor. Because as we say, you may have a cause in mind that you really care about or a value system that matters to you and your family, but as the average person, you may not know, well, how do I not only put money towards that, but invest in that for my own family and my own portfolio. So that's just like the marriage of the two. So have that plan, have a conversation, because the advisor will know from a database of different products that we work with at UBS where you can put money that matches your values. That's really a powerful thing.
Yeah, it seems simple, but really it helps you from feeling like you have to boil the ocean.
That's right.
It helps kind of reduce that starting anxiety, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, yeah. So Nicole, I mean, obviously, as Amantia said, you have to start with your objectives as an individual person or as a family. So what kind of questions should investors be considering when they're thinking about their objectives? And obviously, as they walk into an office or a conversation with an advisor, what should they be thinking about?
Sure. Well, first, I'd like to highlight 2 approaches and then get into some questions to get folks started. In sustainable investing at the highest level, there are 2 approaches which can be implemented independently or in tandem. The first is with a sustainability focus, which is investing in strategies with a clear sustainability objective. And the second is impact investing, which is investing with the intention to generate measurable environmental and social impact alongside a financial return. It's important to note that sustainable investing is not a specific investment solution or strategy.
Right.
Think of it as an investment philosophy. And as such, it can be deployed across all asset classes and with nearly all types of financial instruments. And each sustainable asset class brings a different sustainability benefit. So for investors who want to use their capital to drive positive change, impact investing is the most intentional type of sustainable investing approaches. And when it comes to impact investing, there's always a specific intention or a target, and the outcomes resulting from deploying capital should absolutely be measured. Now, asking questions is the right first step, as Amantia was saying, and a framework such as the one we're proposing may help you to determine how best to allocate your assets to move the needle on issues that you care about and that are important to you while working simultaneously on your financial goals. I'm not going to read through them, as the framework can be found in the paper, but they do include reflective considerations around how you're looking to make a difference, what kind of financing already exists in that issue area, what is the time frame that needs to be dedicated, and what specific asset classes you should be considering deploying to address that challenge. And then the last point I'll make, Anthony, is that investing is not one-directional, and neither is philanthropy. There's an element of cyclicality, of a feedback loop in investing for returns and for impact. And it includes both the learning and iterative processes that lead to affecting systems change and ultimately achieving impact.
Yeah, I like how you talk about SI not being a strategy, it's a philosophy. So that's really important to sort of get here to the last question, Amantia, which is give us a hard, concrete, real-world example here of what we're talking about. Like, sum this up for us.
Yeah, of course.
No pressure.
No pressure. Let's talk about a no-pressure challenge, climate change.
Right.
So if,
we all know what that means.
Yes. So if you're someone who cares about the environment and specifically climate change, you need to think about the questions that we saw up on the screen that Nicole was mentioning. Perhaps you care about innovation, right? You care about climate change. What does that mean? Do you care about slowing down the pace of weather and climate change? Or do you care about how climate impacts low-income communities? Those are different answers. If you care perhaps about innovation, about scaling alternatives that are towards electrification, that may be where you want to go there is with your investment capital. Finding those sustainable investment themes that we always talk about, like green technologies, like electrification, electric vehicles, right? Because that will help with scale. Now, if you care about supporting how individual communities are being kind of in the period that we're kind of changing our economy, being supported to prevent how they're being kind of impacted by climate change. Maybe you think about strategic philanthropy and the whole toolkit within strategic philanthropy, right? So that question that Nicole mentioned will tell you, which way do I go? The answer probably is all of the above or some combination of the above. Think about the bucket analogy. You want to spread your capital a little bit across the whole set for some impactful change. But what's important to remember here is there's no one-size-fits-all solution. So you really need all types of capital to drive change for things you care about.
I was just thinking that it may not be one answer.
Yeah.
You know, you start with, you know, climate change at the top of your list, and if you're drawing it down, you've got, you know, multiple sections of that. There's, you know, desalinization of the oceans to get more fresh water for, you know, for communities that don't have that are dry. You might have, you know, deforestation. You might have something else, or how it affects individual people in certain places that have drought conditions or fire conditions. We were just talking about wildfires in your latest SI perspective. So you might want to go in with all three of those if they really matter to you, and have a broader conversation with your advisor. This is a really important topic, and I think it's something where people now can say, all right, I can put my money where my heart is, where my brain is, where my mouth is. If I'm talking about it at a party, I can actually invest in it, or if it's in my heart and my brain and I care about this cause, or my family cares about this cause, we can invest and also have returns in my own portfolio. So it's a win-win. Thank you both for joining us. I know it was a quick conversation to get through to what we're trying to tell our audience here, but I'm glad we were able to do it today. Good to see both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
Thank you.
Nicole Sebastian, Amantia Muhedini. And thank you for joining us as well. Lots more information on what we're talking about here, plus access to that white paper that Nicole is mentioning at ubs.com/views. That is our insights page. Plus, you can follow UBS Trending, this show, on social media. We're on Instagram at UBS Trending for content that you won't find anywhere else, plus wonderful little promos for all of our shows and content that can be accessed there. Plus, we're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So lots of fun ways to access us on social. And remember to speak to your financial advisor if you have any questions about what we spoke about today. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. Have a great day, everyone. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. See you soon, everybody.